to a video question and answer. I have a guest blogger for this month's Q&A. I probably shouldn't even say month since I haven't written in it for 2, but this is Alberto Nunez. I don't know if you've heard of this jackass. Pro competitor, but he is an IFPA pro, NGA pro, ex-WNBF pro, PNBA pro, WNBA pro. He's been playing women's basketball, so I mean, he knows what he's talking about. Anyway, we're going to address a number of good questions I've gotten recently, and since I don't feel like writing a response to all of them, we're going to videotape it. And we have the opportunity, when we're all here this weekend, to do some taping. So, the first great question from Mario Maldonado, calling you out, is, well, he had a couple questions. One was about a guy benching with his feet up in the air, which, just don't do that. The good question, though, was, what is your take on muscle confusion? And specific to him, he says, the theory is your muscle adapts to a movement if you do it, so you have to switch it up the next month to a different workout, hitting that same muscle, but from a different angle. Thus, it'll be forced to learn and adapt to that new movement, which will cause new growth. And he says, I couldn't find any science on this topic. All I found was the P90X commercial with their science chart. That doesn't really help me much, though. He looked for some articles and couldn't find much, so he would love it if we could address the topic. You want to start with that one, or you want me to?
Start it off and I'll
kick it off. Okay. So I'll probably appeal to science a little more, and then I'll let Alberto make sense of that. So, you know how when you first started lifting weights, how you like doubled or tripled your strength in 6 weeks? And you probably noticed that you didn't double and triple your size in 6 weeks. So what that means is that ability to be massively moving large amounts of weight quickly in comparison to where you start is not because muscle changes. It's primarily because you're getting motor learning down and neurological changes, more finely tuned movement. You can recruit muscles more synchronously, and you're basically learning how to do it like riding a bike. It's not like you started riding a bike and all of a sudden you got jacked legs so you could move those pedals better. No. What's happening is you're getting better motor control. So if you continually switch to a new movement you haven't done every 6 weeks, you're basically seeing lots of progress because you're just relearning motor control. Another reason why you don't see growth in the first 6 weeks is because it's so light, because you don't have any motor control, that it's not heavy enough to stimulate muscle growth. So by switching to something totally different every 6 weeks, you're essentially just nerfing your gains because you're constantly training underneath your muscular needs and learning motor patterns over and over and over again and just getting minimal adaptation. A great example would be Olympic lifters. Yeah, they do pretty well getting better at the squat, front squat, snatch, hang clean, clean and jerk by doing those lifts. And you don't see Olympic lifters going, well, we hit a stall in our snatch, let's go run the 800 meter. You know, they, believe it or not, just snatch. Want to go take it from there?
Yeah, and makes sense of what he said. It's really late, so I don't understand half the things he said, but from my experience, the longer I've been doing this, the less and less variation there is to my training. You know, whereas I used to have, for example, for chest, I used to have 6, 7 different exercises, and if a brand new shiny machine was brought into the gym, well, you know, I'd want to try that too, and I'd double in strength within a month. You know, wow, results. That's what I had been looking for from the other movements, but no, not so much. And now as I'm getting into those years where it's harder and harder to make progress, I've been finding out that it's better for me to just select a few specific exercises based on what, first of all, is actually really working the muscle in its best possible way. Like for chest, I really like to rely on dumbbells with a good arch or maybe with a slight decline, and that's about 90% of my work. So firstly, you know, what is actually working the muscle in a way that's most advantageous to what your goal is, working out the chest, and what is the safest movement for you. You know, there's some movements that just don't agree with me biomechanically. So over the years, I've really cut down the variation to the point where most of my chest movements is 2 or 3 movements. And it's really cool because when I progress on those, well, it's because I'm actually making progress, not because I'm trying the brand new shiny machine in the gym.
Cool. So, I think that well covers the muscle memory question. I also got a great series of questions from one of my clients. A lot of them specific to female competitors and females interested in body comp, and I think there's not enough information out for you gals. So let's see what we can do for that. All right. So the first one: can men lose at a faster rate than women without compromising lean body mass? And that's in reference to dieting. And my answer to this was kind of. Men typically lose at a faster rate because they have a higher body fat set point, which means that they're going to run into metabolic plateaus and their body fighting them at a later point than a woman, and to a lesser degree. So while the effects are going to be the same, you're just going to, you can't rush fat loss women as much. If you try to, typically you just see so much metabolic slowdown that it almost just doesn't happen. So women are also smaller, so they're going to have, you know, a lower maintenance caloric set point. So like, for example, if you look at the Minnesota semi-starvation study that was done in the 50s, we saw guys having their met rate slow down by 40%. So just to give you feedback, if your maintenance calories are 300, all of a sudden they become 1800, that means, yeah, to see a pound a week loss, you would need to eat 1300 calories, which is insane, right? And you'd lose a crap ton of muscle to be able to work out all that. But that's 3,000 maintenance caloric intake. If you talk about a woman who might be under 2,000, that's bad mojo, right? So that's part of that. Another piece of that is that the same relative body weight, because women have a higher percentage of body fat naturally, they're going to have a slightly higher and faster metabolism because there's more muscle mass. And muscle mass is more metabolically active. It moves. Not that fat doesn't burn calories, because it has to have blood flow and all that. So you're going to see slightly faster metabolisms in women. And as far as losing lean body mass, I don't actually see much of a difference between men and women in that. As long as you have adequate calories to support training and your macronutrient ratio makes sense, then you're probably going to be okay as far as muscle loss. In fact, and this might be just totally anecdotal, but I've seen women maintain muscle and strength a little better than some of my men. And that might be because, you know, guys' testosterone levels tank a lot more, and women it goes from really low to still really low. So your muscle may not be more related to endocrine function or hormonal fluctuations. So so there might be some of that.
Yeah, and you know what? I second that. I see more strength, big dips in strength in men than in women. And back to the original question, as far as do men lose fat easier or at a faster pace? Typically they do. And to be quite honest, just a quick example here. First 2 weeks of dieting, if you know, a guy comes back and he's like, you know, I've lost 7-8 pounds, you know, we'll make some adjustments, and there's no panic on my part. But if I get 7-8 pounds from a woman in the first 10-14 days, it's time to panic. And if anything, we really try to slow it down, because you're going to pay for it later, because like Eric said, you know, they typically have higher set points. So it's really about getting as close to the goal you have as far as body composition, with your metabolism intact. With women, it's a lot more difficult, and you need a lot of patience, and really just pacing it out. Or like Eric said, you're going to pay for it later, and some real bad plateaus can take place, and women's bodies can be very, very stubborn if you get off on the wrong foot.
Cool. And
thank you guys, and Brad, you've been a wonderful tripod.
yeah. Brad, thank you. You're a great video cameraman.